You are Locked On Hawks POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good evening, Hawks Nation, Atlanta Hawks fans. Appreciate everybody for joining us. You are watching the Locked On Hawks POSTCAST with me, DeShaun, Tate. Feel free to follow at Tate's Take Hoops. And, of course, I got my dude joining me with me, man, Don Stenson. I know we've been working on this thing for quite a long time and trying to get something together to where I can bring you onto the show, but I'm glad that we finally got that opportunity to do so. And Don most certainly does some phenomenal work. He is the creator and contributor of DNA Sports Talk, covering the Hawks beat as he is there at the arena and was there at the arena tonight. And able to see. I don't know if he was kind of like, kind of looking between the eyes or what have you. Third, let's just keep it all the way. We keep it all the way 100. We don't sugarcoat. It was a 30-point butt whooping, 141-111 victory for the Denver Nuggets, ultimately ending the 6-game win streak for the Atlanta Hawks. We're going to dive into some of that, obviously. Plain and simple. Simple and plain is the first segment that's on the docket on tonight, just kind of talking about Denver being the better team, and is it just that simple? Also, the concerns to some of the key contributors, to some of the guys that were out on tonight that played a big part in this Atlanta Hawks rotation. And then, of course, on to the Big Apple. Needs no explanation. Everybody knows what that means. The Emirates Cup In-Season Tournament meeting with the New York Knicks in New York. So we'll go ahead and jump into that right after. Of course, we have to let you know that this particular segment and show is brought to you by FanDuel, where you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Don, we kind of talked a little bit about, this game, some of the things that you had seen coming in, some of the things you felt like the Atlanta Hawks would need to do. I don't think we found out that we weren't going to be with certain players, which we'll get into in the next segment, until a little bit late, that they were a late scratch. You said that it was just pretty plain and simple and plain. They got beat by a better team, and the Denver Nuggets was the one that ended up prevailing in impressive fashion. How do you break down what you saw tonight?
It was, and for a team that had come in on a 6-game winning streak, which is great, right? Because in that winning streak, you beat Cleveland twice, who's the best team in the NBA currently. You beat a Celtics team, which is second in the East. And you beat a Lakers team that had LeBron, correct? Almost a 40-point triple-double LeBron. So throughout that, you saw the flashes of defense that is led by Dyson Daniels, who up until a couple of weeks ago, he was averaging 5 to 6 steals a game. That type of defensive pressure was able to help the other players to play defense with a little bit more urgency.
Sure.
And the other thing that happened, you brought up how Wednesday headed to New York to continue in the Tournament Cup. When you're playing in games in the tournament, there's always the point differential. You saw that at the end of, I think it was the Spurs and Chris Paul, while he was trying to still score with a few seconds left on the clock, because that could be the tiebreaker.
The difference maker.
The difference maker. So when you're playing in that type of style, even toward the end of the game, you're playing defense. You're trying to score. And that kind of carried over for the Hawks in playing that style for the last couple of weeks into and during this 6-game winning streak. So that's what I was looking for was, how would the defense come out and play tonight? And unfortunately, defense was okay, but, you're going up against the champions from a couple of years ago, a 3-time MVP in Jokic, and it just wasn't enough considering the players that were there on the floor.
And that's what they look like on tonight. Honestly, I'm not sure how much better. Obviously, it would have looked a little bit better. I'm not sure if this would have been a game that the Hawks were going to walk away with, especially if the Nuggets were playing the way the Nuggets were playing and the Hawks were playing the way the Hawks were playing. If it would have made a difference having Bogey and Jalen. Now, obviously, yes, it would have made a difference. How much of a difference? I think a significant one. However, I'm not sure that they still wouldn't have been adding a number to the right side of the result column. And I mean, to be honest with you, what I saw in tonight, it kind of looked like Denver was doing whatever they wanted. To be honest with you, they're getting up and down the floor. Of course, they were a lot bigger than Atlanta was, and I thought that was something in terms of the size disadvantage that Atlanta had. They had to find a way to turn that into an advantage, and the way that you do that is by getting out in the open court, getting out in transition, spacing the floor. And just beating them up and down the floor at every possible chance. Obviously, they're one of the best teams in the NBA in terms of fast break and pace and all that. But obviously, something I think kind of hurt them is we always talk about, styles make fights, and, it's all about the matchups and stuff like that. With Denver being a bigger team, if you look at Atlanta, how successful that they have been over the course of this 6-game win streak, they've been able to be dominant. I call it hungry hippo, feeding the inside, going inside out. And they weren't able to do that on tonight because they were playing a much bigger team, especially without one of their bigger pieces up front being Jalen Johnson. And,
right.
and Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella is only going to bring you so much limited contribution on the offensive end of the floor as well. So I think some of those things were just some of the little key things. Let me ask you this, and this might be off base. Hopefully it's not. I think it's a real thing. It's a possibility. For those who might be curious of this, do you think that there was any inkling based off of the vibe, because this ain't something we know, based off the vibe, the energy, and the feel that you had from being there in the arena on tonight and watching this team up close and personal, do you think maybe they were looking forward to New York on Wednesday just a little bit, or this had absolutely nothing to do with any of that at all whatsoever?
They probably were, because you won 6 games, and you want to go for 7, but that there's something a little bit more tangible out there of playing a team that has now become a rival because of the fan base and because you have so many people from New York that have moved to
live
Atlanta.
Here. Mm-hmm. That's a good way of putting it, by the way.
It's turned into something, and you've been to a game where Atlanta and New York play. It's split. It's 50,
it feels like a home game almost for New York sometimes.
It depends on who makes the shot as to which half of the arena stands up and which half doesn't.
Sure.
And yes, there was a slight look ahead. And the reason why I say that is because Denver played last night. So you're coming in thinking they could be a little tired.
You're gonna be a little tired, a little winded.
Maybe not as winded, correct. But for Denver to jump out to such a significant lead to begin the game was telling. Mm-hmm. Usually it's the home team that has rested that comes out, with the energy. Now, granted, Friday night was a long game. Went into overtime with the Lakers. Another exciting game, high profile, but you had a chance to rest Saturday. A little bit of an early start, 6 p.m. Eastern instead of your normal 7:30. So your routine is slightly off, and for guys who have rituals or something like that, then, there's that chance that any little thing can throw you off, right?
Sure.
If you're used to eating at 1 o'clock, you're used to your nap at 2, you're used to stretching at 3:30, routines are how not just athletes, but all of us function. That had something to do with it, I'm sure, as well, as to why they came out a little bit flat, you might say. Not just not having a full complement of players, but that also plays into, the mentality of what took place in the first quarter and the second quarter of the game when they were down by as much as 30 points at one point.
And that makes for a very good point. I want to make sure I mention this before we go ahead and pay some bills here in a second and cut to a break. But obviously, we don't make any excuses on this program. That's just not what we do. While Jalen Johnson was out with a shoulder injury, Bogey was out with a quad injury. Let's not forget the fact that Murray was out as well.
Good point.
For Denver. And so I just kind of felt like Christian Braun maybe being an X factor for this team who's shooting ridiculously as a guard, 58%, 57% from the field, 15 points a game for this team. But it felt like as easy as it was for Denver to get up and down the floor, I seen only 19 fast break points in transition. I really felt like just by looking at this game, even if I was just listening to it on the radio before TVs were invented, it felt like triple that number, to be honest with you. So I just thought I'd throw that part out there because this game was something that really felt like it wasn't even in reach from the beginning of it. We're going to go ahead and pay some bills and get to the some of the concerns that we have to some of those injured players and what have you that we talked about, not having Jalen, not having Bogey on tonight, how things end up resulting into the 141-111 victory for the Denver Nuggets that ended up slowing down, cooling off the red-hot Atlanta Hawks on the other side of this break.
Okay. See it.
And it's the holiday season, and with everyone kicking out cash for gifts for the family at rapid pace, probably faster than Trae Young's release on a three-point shot, ends still have to meet and bills still have to be paid. See, it's not always all about the mortgage or the utilities. Sometimes it's not always all about the insurance. Sometimes it's about the little things, the gas in the car, unless you got one of those fancy Nancy electric cars. Sometimes it's about the groceries where you got to make those ends meet. And even the phone bill that tends to add up sometimes. Will allow me to take the latter off of your plate because right now with Mint Mobile, you can own a premium wireless plan for just $15 per month. That is correct. You heard it right. $15 a month. So say goodbye to all your overpriced wireless plans and the jaw-dropping monthly bills, the unexpected overages, and so forth. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. So ditch the overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower than 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Don, as we get ready to flip the page now a little bit to the second segment, we got concerns, man. You know, it's not just when DeAndre Hunter goes down, which it feels like sometimes in a season it happens every other night. That's one thing. When it's Vit Krejci or when it's, you know, occasionally Onyeka or maybe Garrison Matthews, that's one thing. It's a whole nother ordeal when it is arguably your leading scorer, second leading scoring option on this team being Jalen Johnson, who is out tonight with a shoulder injury. How concerned? I don't think that we have an answer yet as to whether he will play or not on Wednesday. I would imagine if I know Jalen, he probably will, but I don't want to pretend to play doctor either. How does this impact the Hawks? How does him not playing tonight impact this team as they get prepared for the New York Knicks in the Emirates Cup In-Season Tournament on Wednesday in New York?
Oh, it definitely does. I have been on record talking about the Nuggets go as Michael Porter Jr. goes, right? Jokic is going to get his. Murray's going to get his. But who is that third option? Tonight, Porter had 26. Does he get 26 if Jalen Johnson is in the game? Probably not. You know, it's the old adage of the Jordan rules. If you're looking at Denver, especially without Murray, as you mentioned tonight, let Jokic get his, right? Let him drop. He had 48. He had 56 that night. Let him sort of get 60.
Go for 100.
Go for 100. Stop everyone else, right? Because that's when he's most effective. The rebounding, the assists. He's a walking triple-double now, passing Magic Johnson on the triple-doubles list. But that stops Porter from going off if you have a defensive person like Jalen Johnson in the lineup. Now, as you mentioned, it's shoulder soreness. Again, not a doctor, don't even play one. But soreness is a little bit more comforting than shoulder contusion or something else. You know, soreness sounds like he could have gone if needed tonight, but the Emirates Cup, the Knicks is on Wednesday. Let's, continue giving him treatment. We'll see how things go on Wednesday. But definitely a huge miss because of his length and his size, his ability to score, rebound, assist. Yeah, that's a hard miss for tonight for the Hawks.
And not only that, but when you also factor in what is that, about 20 a game, you also add Bogey's 12, so we're talking every bit of 32 points a game that you're missing there. Of course, a good number of rebounds, at least 10 for sure, because that's what you're getting from Jalen, and then obviously a 3 or 4, so it's about 14 rebounds that you're also missing. But you're missing key contribution guys that are able to soak up minutes, and even if they do go to the bench for a little bit of a rest, obviously not for anything of extensive amount of time. You're missing a guy that also, is converting at least one 3-pointer every time he goes out there for like 100 straight games, being Bogdanovic, and just a fearless guy, a guy who knows how to play, sometimes a liability on the defensive end, right? But also a guy who knows how to play when you need a bucket, when there's instances where, as we've seen earlier this year, where, Trey hasn't been looking like the typical Trey that we've been always accustomed to, right? Not shooting the air out of the basketball. He's facilitating, he's distributing. If you can't tell, he's the leading guy in assists for the NBA so far this season, and just setting other guys up. Bogey is one of those guys since his return that has been really, really big. And I'm not talking about 8 or 9 points off the bench from Bogey. This is also a guy that, last year, had it not been for some injuries in what equates to the amount of games that he missed, could have potentially been up for the six-man player of the year, 6 man of the year award as well. So when you consider in all of these things, and we're not making excuses here by any means, folks, but that is something that's going to be needed and necessary between him and Jalen when it comes to being able to put, points on the board and preparing themselves for when Wednesday rolls around. Now, because you didn't have Jalen on tonight, you did insert Larry Nance Jr. coming off of the bench. Hadn't seen him a whole lot between him and David Roddy, which I haven't really understood throughout the duration of this win streak that they've been on. How come they haven't been playing? I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it. But we did see Nance inserted into the lineup on tonight. Give me a grade maybe for him as a starter on tonight. I know he had some pretty big dunks, some good defensive plays. He did some decent things to still be Larry Nance at the end. He's not no Jalen, but he's still. Give me your thoughts. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Give me your thoughts on your assessment on Nance tonight.
I think it's based off of expectations, right?
Okay.
What do you expect Nance to be at this point?
Right, especially against this team. Right.
Especially against this team.
Mm-hmm.
Are you expecting someone with 10 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking for when it comes to that. He exceeded expectations. If that's the case, he 16 points, but didn't have the assists with 3. Sure. I think the rebounds were 4. So I would say a B+ performance based off of what I'm looking for him to provide at this point in time. If this was Larry Nance, even from a couple of years ago, I have a higher expectation for what I'm trying to get from him. But I'm gonna be realistic and say B plus. And to your point, he hasn't been put in the lineup for whatever reasons. It seems like Quinn likes his rotation of, we'll say, big men between Capella starting and Okongwu playing a lot of minutes and trying to be that big man that is naturally a 4, trying to play the 5. And Nance is just right now the odd man out. But because of injuries, as we mentioned to Jalen Johnson and Bogey, now he's inserted into the lineup. And for good reasons, right? You're going up against, as you mentioned, a big lineup with Jokic and Aaron Gordon, DeAndre comes off the bench. Michael Porter Jr. is long. So you needed to go with a bigger lineup to try and offset some of that from the Nuggets tonight.
No doubt.
But B plus though.
B plus. Don Stenson joining us, creator and contributor on the Atlanta Hawks beat of the DNA Sports Talk. Be sure to follow along on all social media platforms at DNA Sports Talk every Monday, 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. Of course, that's Eastern Standard Time. Just for those who may not know, 16 points for Nance on tonight. Better than 50% from the field, which is always good, especially as a big, and not so great from 3-point range. He's no 3-point shooter, sniper, and nothing by that means, but somewhere right around 30% shooting as far as that goes. And got a chance to see him give some pretty good contribution for a guy who has not been getting in the game and not only not playing very much, but hasn't been playing at all in many instances recently. I think that he did himself a pretty fine job to also be Larry Nance in the most respectful of ways. So, no, that's for sure. And talking a little bit about the bench production and contribution to scoring. This is an Atlanta Hawks bench that has been ridiculously just kind of outscoring all the opposition of the other teams. I mean, at Cleveland, 62 points for the bench. Against Cleveland, 50. At Charlotte, 47. Against the Pelicans, 52. At Milwaukee, 50. Against LA, 65. Here on tonight, much less than most of those other numbers. 43 still outscoring Denver on tonight, but certainly just wasn't enough, especially without having Bogey and having to move other guys around and plug and play, inserting guys in different spots. So that's just a little bit of an update. We're going to pay a couple more bills here. Right here on the other side, we will talk a little bit about the Emirates Cup as we're on to the Big Apple for the NBA in-season tournament. We're going to dive a little bit deeper on into some of that because everybody's really looking forward to that game whenever we see Trae Young in the building for that. So we'll jump into that here in just a second. Well. Are you tired of waking up extra early every Sunday morning trying to figure out how and where to place your bets? How about even the delayed text message that you get replies from your own personal bookie, and ironically and coincidentally enough, conveniently, whenever it's time for you to cash out, or even searching for a new home to place your money lines, your spreads, or your over-unders on Thursdays, Sundays, maybe even the big one on Mondays. I'm always looking for a place to be able to place my bets for my diehard Detroit Lions. That's another conversation. The reason why is because never fear, the solution is here. And you wonder what I mean by that? That means you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So don't be shy. Don't hide that dragon. Come up out that pocket. Not only can you get you a little hot and ready $5 pizza, and you can put a little extra $5 on FanDuel for Wednesday's game when the Hawks take care of the New York Knicks again in the Big Apple, where I'm sure it's nice and cold. Show a little Southern hospitality for them. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if only if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Don, as we get ready to close it out, man, and send it on home, we first got to send it on the road. Obviously, we've teased it enough. Everybody's excited about the Emirates Cup. It's a huge game, turning into a rivalry. You've got the South, you've got the East Coast. There's already narratives around that without basketball already as it is sometimes. So that's just going to make it interesting. I think one time I saw Trey went up there and someone spit on him from the crowd. They had to throw him out. I mean, it's going to get crazy. It gets real wacky. Give me your thoughts, maybe some keys, some things that you're looking forward to, maybe some things that the Atlanta Hawks have to do. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think the Hawks beat them earlier this season. I want to say I got to go back and look at that and look into that a little bit more. However, this is for something where, there's a lot more riding on this particular game. Right. Give me your outlook on the preview for this particular meeting.
This is going to be a tough game for them because even though they lost this evening, winning 6 or 7, you're on the Knicks radar, right? Now, as we said earlier, yes, this has become a rivalry, so you kind of throw records out the door.
No doubt.
Even when especially you're talking football, basketball.
Yep.
You like in Michigan State and everything.
No doubt.
When you play Michigan, you throw records out the door, right? Ohio State, Michigan, Duke, Carolina, Auburn, Alabama, So the records don't mean anything. But in this situation, the Knicks are definitely not going to be dismissive because the Hawks have come in winning now 6 of 7. They're going to look at film a little bit more differently. They're going to try and push Trey to go left. I hope I ain't giving away too much. But
Coach Don.
They're going to try and push him to go left. They're going to try and blitz him, get the ball out of his hands. Tonight, that's what Denver was able to do. And a lot of teams can talk about what they want to do, but don't have the personnel to do it. The Knicks have the personnel to do that, to say, okay, somebody else is going to have to beat us. We're not going to allow Trey to, as you mentioned earlier, continue his leading assist in the league. He had 20-plus assists in the last couple of weeks in a couple of games. You're going to have to minimize that. Even tonight, going into the fourth quarter, Trey only had 3 points. That was a direct relationship to we're getting the ball out of his hands. Of course, Jalen not playing. Somebody else is going to have to put the ball on the floor and beat us. The Knicks have the personnel with Brunson and Bridges and now adding Cat. Now do that. And it's going to be a great game. I'm saying the Hawks can't win this because they can. I mean, anytime you suit up, you got a chance. But the Knicks personnel is equipped to be able to force Trey and the Hawks to move in a different direction when it comes to the ball handling and who's going to be the primary ball handler and scorer.
That makes perfect sense because, as you said, you got so many different guys. You got the length and athleticism of like a Bridges. Anunoby is also on that roster. He's another guy with the length and athleticism. Brunson is just tough as nails as can be. He's always going to play good defense. Josh Hart, everybody knows for his defense. McBride being another one. So they've got guys all over the place flying. But that didn't really make much of a difference in the 121-116 result for the Atlanta Hawks. Of course, that was in Atlanta quite some time ago. I think just the 9th game of the season for the Hawks, and ultimately resulted in a win for that one. Of course, if the Hawks want to win on Wednesday, they might need a duplicate or replication from the guy who is a rookie and had his career high in that game, that being Zachary Risachet. And just think about it like this, as well as the Hawks have been doing. I mean, they're averaging right now, I'm sure somewhere right around 40s, late 40s, deep 40s, early 50s in terms of like bench production and bench scoring. I think they're 3rd or 4th ranked in the NBA in terms of bench scoring. That particular night, 9-7, 18, 19, 20, 21. I think what 21 points, 18, 17, 16, yeah, 18 points for the bench against the Knicks in a win. Just imagine now that we're 25 games in and how much better that bench looks, especially if you're able to continue getting what you're getting out of Onyeka on the offensive end and defensive end, continuing to get what you're getting out of DeAndre Hunter, who I don't think even played that game. Bogdanovic, who also didn't play. These are guys that didn't play when the Hawks resulted in a win for that one. So it's going to be interesting. Right. Never want to count out those Hawks because I got a good feeling that all the pressure right now, especially with the Hawks not being on this win streak, all the pressure right now, honestly, is on New York because they have all the high expectations to take care of the Hawks, who doesn't have the DeJounte Murray. People getting caught up to speed with now watching, getting away from some of these, I call it that football stuff, the bowl games and all this other garbage. People are starting to get caught up a little bit until those bowl games are played to who's been doing what. And most people are just saying, oh, that's cute. It's the Atlanta Hawks. They don't got DeJounte. They probably stink. This is the New York Knicks. They have a brand name, and they were playing for something really prestigious on last year and expected to be one of the, most fierce competitors in the East. Well, the Atlanta Hawks is one team that I don't want to be betting against when they're in an underdog role. That's for sure. So let's get the people caught up. Listen, Don, man, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for coming on the program with us on today. Remember, Don Stenson, man, great dude. Not a good dude, not okay. He's decent. He's average, mediocre. No, a great dude, man. Creator and contributor of the DNA Sports Talk. Make sure you go check him out. Does great Hawks coverage as well at DNA Sports Talk. Anywhere you find your favorite social media platforms and so forth. Every Monday from 7p to 9p, of course, that is Eastern Standard Time. We're going to get up out of here. Meet me back here, let's say, folks, in about, 72 hours. As you know that we recap each and every single game. Of course, we'll be doing that for the Emirates Cup In-Season Tournament. New York Knicks at home hosting the Atlanta Hawks, and can't wait until I see you guys there. So meet me back here in about 72, and I can't wait to see you in. Leave some comments as well and follow us along on social media at Locked On Sports Atlanta.